Looks well, doesn't it? 70-odd grand's worth of Porsche 911 turbo-bodied cabriolet. To some people, sports cars don't come much more desirable than this one. It is the absolute dog's twitcher. Just what is it about these low, multi-cylindered slingshots? Every decade has its favourites. In the 90s, you plump for a Porker. In the 80s, it was the Mercedes Sports. In the 70s, Jaguar XJSs were all the rage. And in the 60s, you weren't groovy unless you had an E-Type. And in the 50s, it was the good old Austin Healey, which is really where our story starts. Back in the mid-50s, the bloke who owned this Des Res you see behind me, Wortley Hall, bought one of the very first BN1 Healeys, the then equivalent of today's shiny Porsche 911. 40 years difference between the two cars, hugely different in price and technology, yet both achieve the same effect. They make you feel better at the end of your journey than when you started. So if I said, here's a blank check, you'd scurry off and you'd do the predictable thing, wouldn't you? You'd go and you'd buy the Porker. Well, I'm about to introduce you to two people who didn't do the predictable thing. They took a longer and a harder road. To them, the fantasy of that glinting, pristine Austin Healey was more bewitching than the car from Stuttgart. They spent a whopping 1,200 man-hours and £54,000 to recapture a dream. I followed their course, and I reckon they've ended up with much, much more. See what you think, but here's a tale of two enthusiasts who wanted the very best Austin Healey in the world. They couldn't buy it, so they had to build it from a rusty pile of scrap. This is their story.
Good morning, Northern Healey Centre. May I help you?
Yes, could I speak to Steve Jowett, please?
Project Big Healey began back in early 1992 with a telephone call to the Northern Healey Centre in Castleford, West Yorkshire.
Yeah. Steve Jowett?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
it.
it's Glenn Day from Sheffield.
Hello.
Steve, I'm sorry to trouble you, just a bit of information, please. I'm looking through a classic car magazine,
Yeah.
and I'm reading an article on restoration of an Healey, Austin Healey.
Oh, yes.
And I've seen you've been one of the advisors on the article, and I'm reading your ad as well, your sales ad.
Oh,
I
right.
wondered if we could get together and chat, because we have an interest in restoring an Healey for the 1993 International Healey weekend.
Yes, of course.
Could we get together on that?
Certainly.
When could you come through and see me? And how many hours are we talking from start to finish?
We're looking at somewhere in the region of 1,000 to 1,200 hours for the full concourse rebuild.
And what's the car going to cost that's right to do a restoration of that quality?
It depends what we find and what circumstances we find it in. I want to find something as original as possible because that's going to make it easier at the end of the day.
When you say original, you mean it needs less work, or the chassis, or...?
Not necessarily less work, but one that somebody hasn't messed about with and spoilt. Because if it's had bits put onto it that aren't original, that are difficult to find, it just makes our job harder.
Steve, have you any photographs of work that you've done in the past?
Yeah, I've brought a few here just for you to have a look at. This will give you an idea what a car might look like when we find one for you. That particular car is one we did. It's on the road now, but we did it about 2 years ago. That is the boot, if you can recognise it, of the car.
And that is?
And that's looking inside the car. But the floor here is actually our garage floor. There's nothing left of the floor of the car. All you can see is two chassis rails.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives you an idea what we might start with.
By May 1992, things had started to happen. They'd found a straight chassied Healey 3-litre.
Hello, it's Steve at the Northern Healey Centre. Can I speak to Glenn or Anita, please?
Just a moment, please. I'll put you through.
Thank you.
Hello?
Hello, Anita.
Yes, speaking.
It's Steve at the Northern Healey Centre. All
Hi,
right.
Steve. Yeah, fine. How are you?
Oh, great. I think I've found the car for the restoration project.
Oh, great. When did you find that?
Well, I went down to see one down south at the weekend.
Yeah.
Will you and Glenn be in this afternoon?
We won't be this afternoon, but we will be tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Are you coming through?
Yeah, I'd love to come through and tell you all about it.
That's fine then. What time tomorrow?
10, 11, whatever.
Make it about 10:30 then, and I'll make sure that we're both here.
I'll see you then, 10:30.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
Cheers, Anita. Bye.
Bye.
It's late, Mark.
By the following day, our protagonists were animatedly discussing body and trim colours, delivery dates, and most importantly, what it would all cost. Could they do the job in 14 months flat to coincide with the 1993 International Healey Weekend in Telford?
Are we confident we can...
And here it is, a 10.5 grand pile of scrap, but it had a straight chassis and matching numbers. A 1966 Austin Healey 3-litre Mark III, a left hooker originally supplied to a dealer in Germany. What sort of magical metamorphosis would it take to turn this into the best Austin Healey in the world? It has to be said that our conspirators had the odd furrowed brow or two at the sight of all that ferrous oxide, but the experts said that one day it would be okay. That's Paul Grogan doing a very creditable impersonation of a scrap dealer. Our sorry-looking project was broken down into its constituent parts and packed off to the restorers. With mixed metals fetching £22 a tonne on the Weybridge, we reckoned we bought ourselves a tenner's worth. Mind you, they do say a good, genuine Austin Healey body panel is worth its weight in gold. It was here that the first of many, many drops of sweat were shed, and some bright spark was heard to remark, they don't make 'em like they used to. This was the easy bit, taking it all apart. Ian and Paul stripped the shell and chassis ready for shot blasting. That legendary and bomb-proof 6-pot 3-litre lump was transferred to the engine department to be rebuilt to a new and pristine health. As any Concours contender will tell you, you've got to get back to basics with a scrupulously clean chassis and shell. There's a 27-year patina of rust, grime and paint to be removed.
Lights on. Right. Going to pick this thing up.
There's some that scoff at bee blasting, but you just try getting that sort of level of cleanliness with a wire brush and a paint scraper. First job was to sort out a little bit of period vandalism. Can you believe that once upon a time people used to chop holes in their Austin Healeys for stereo speakers? Mind you, back then you weren't trendy unless you had an 8-track. It's amazing what having the right piece of kit can do. Filling up and welding our speaker holes took no longer than a Rolling Stones track. Off comes the front inner wing to braze and fill a small area of corrosion. Then it's time to get at a rusty suspension turret and whip that off. And this is where it gets really fiddly. Unless the new suspension mount is absolutely and critically aligned, our Austin Healey will handle like a hyperactive Allegro, which is why we have to use a jig, lining it up very, very, very carefully indeed before we start to weld or drill any holes. And only that way will it handle like it did when it came out of the factory. One of the worst rust spots on any car is the inner sill, and the big Healey is no exception. There's a lot of cutting and grinding needed to get to reveal all, but unless this area is well sorted, those all-important shut lines won't be right. Now we're back to that inner wing. Remember that rust hole? Got to cut that out, braze it up. Then we offer it up back into position. Smooth it out. Don't forget it's going to be visible inside the engine compartment, so that's got to look right. And there we go. Pop it back in place. Sounds like an awful lot of work for one small rust point, but remember, the name of this particular game is pure perfection. While we're at it, some more major mechanicals. Off with the back axle. That'll have to be reconditioned. Even though the old Salisbury axle wasn't a problem, and they rarely gave any serious grief, it's wise at this stage to get it all to bits to make sure it's perfect.